Hello.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to another episode of FG Explained. Uh,
Yes.
we have a very delicious one today, actually. And I think a big reason for that is because we have been doing a lot of political conversations,
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of pretty heavy stuff. And I realized that Singapore does have its lighthearted moments. And I thought, why not do something that's slightly more fun
Mm-hmm.
today, something short and sweet. I'm gonna be eating laksa
Oh, okay.
live. Sorry, let me take out the bag. Live in front of everyone. If you are listening in on the podcast, all you're gonna be hearing are slurps. But that's gonna be making you
Wow.
hungry anyway.
Wow.
Um,
You know what?
so
Just for this show, I actually had laksa before this as well.
right.
Yeah,
Uh,
because Robert told me to eat laksa before uh, tonight's talk,
we kind of kind
so
of
that
have to
we
get
can
in the
get
mood.
into the mood of eating laksa. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that added effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
It's so
But
good.
yes, today we're going to be talking about laksa.
I mean, the thing about Singaporean culture. Sorry, I'm still eating. Wow. um, thing about Singaporean culture is that food is such a big part of it,
Yes.
right? And rather than just do an episode about food in general and Singaporean food in general, I thought, we could probably milk this a bit and do like multiple episodes on every dish because
Mm-hmm.
every dish is going to be so unique. And that's the whole reason why we're doing this podcast is just to have a fun way of diving deep into every different part of Singapore.
Exactly.
Some people are starting to wonder about our caption, the Laksa is Persian. We actually found something out during our research that we thought would be interesting to share. Do you have anything else to say before we dive in?
I'm
Willie?
not sure. I'm not sure whether Charlene is asking where Laksa came from, but she's probably asking where did your Laksa come
Oh,
from?
my Laksa came. Well, this was just from downstairs.
Yeah, this is.
I have a personal favorite Laksa place, and you do too. We'll probably share that later.
Yeah.
But not. This is pretty good.
This is from Toa Payoh.
Yeah, this is pretty good. This is
Toa Payoh Laksa.
yeah. Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do that, man.
All right.
Laksa.
Let's start with what exactly laksa, the word, the etymology of it is. Essentially, there are different schools of there are two schools of thought. The first is that the word laksa may have actually come from Sanskrit
Oh,
or
wow.
Persian, right? Which is
Okay.
interesting. Because I would have thought it would have been like a Malay word,
Uh-huh.
or like at most maybe even some kind of anglicization of like a Chinese word
Right.
or
Right.
something like
Right.
that.
Right.
But it is Sanskrit or Persian, which are actually ancient languages. These are
Mm-hmm.
South Asian or Middle Eastern languages.
Mm-hmm.
So in Sanskrit, there is a word called laksha, Laksha,
Right.
which means many. And so the research was basically saying that
Lots of ingredients that go into the bowl of laksa.
right, which is true, right? There is the soup itself is so rich. There's a lot that's in
Right.
there,
Right.
but then there's like fish cakes and like what do you
Well, at least the modern day version is like
right,
that, right?
right,
Yeah. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm eating in the laksa.
right. Well, sometimes
It's
you
like,
just kind of want to
so
just
milky
enjoy
and
it as like
orange.
as a whole concept. You're not really
Mhm.
trying to dissect it too much.
Mhm.
There is the Persian word as well.
Okay.
So the Oxford Companion to Food states that laksa in Persian, laksha, same origin word, could be noodle or slippery.
Oh, slippery noodles?
Right. Which it is true. Like I've been struggling to eat these noodles without slurping them away. So
you have Sanskrit that says many ingredients,
right.
and you have Persian that says slippery noodles.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of. Okay.
Both are pretty
sums
spot
it up,
on.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's describe what is a laksa.
Okay.
And then there's actually two different kinds of laksa,
Okay. Tell me more.
or rather three different kinds. In
Oh,
fact.
wow.
But the first kind is the one that we are familiar with in Singapore, and the one that I personally actually like more. It's a curry laksa, and
Okay.
most of the time the curry is like a spicy coconut milk based curry.
Mhm.
There could be other styles of curry. There in parts of Indonesia, for example, they have variations on the actual curry. But that's one, and the other is basically a tamarind-based Assam style laksa.
Right.
So that's the one that people normally go to Penang for to have like that sour twang to their laksa. And within Singapore, curry laksa, the one that we all know is basically Katong laksa.
Right. It's coconut milk.
Right.
Coconut milk based laksa, right?
Right.
So you're saying there are three. So it's Singapore, it's coconut milk laksa. Then there's the tamarind version of laksa that's from Penang.
Right.
Right.
And then the third one is actually a mix of both.
Okay.
So there are some parts in Southeast Asia where they mix the curry and the tamarind. And those are the three different kinds. So there's curry, there's a curry.
There's curry version.
There's a tamarind version. And then the third is basically a mix of the two.
Okay.
Yeah. So
which one do you prefer?
I just said the curry.
The curry version. Yeah, you did say that.
The Katong laksa.
Right.
And actually the Katong laksa is very much tied to a very important part of our history, the Peranakan history. Do you know, I mean, how much do you know about the Peranakan culture? We actually should do a whole episode about this, but how much do you know about Peranakan culture, Willie?
Well, I think it's like ethnic Chinese from mainland living in I think the Malayan Peninsula,
right? And
then integrating into the Malay culture, and then therefore giving birth to the whole Peranakan culture, right?
Right. Slightly more broadly, it's integrating into the Straits culture.
That's right.
And so there are actually Peranakan Indians. This is the whole like untold story that they did an exhibit about quite
Peranakan
recently.
Indians.
Yeah. But Katong laksa is inspired by the Peranakans, who basically, the Chinese are very much about soup noodles, right? So they love the soup noodles. They love that dish. And the Straits area is all about the spices, right? The Malay spices and everything. So what they did was that they combined those two things to create the iconic dish, which is laksa.
Wait, it says that the Katong laksa inspired by Peranakans who live in the Katong area.
Exactly.
Right. And
so,
that's how we get that whole Katong laksa.
Right.
Yeah, in Singapore.
Right. So I mean, laksa in general is a combination of the soup noodle and the spice.
Okay.
Those two iconic forces of culinary forces.
Yeah.
I think the Katong one, you're right, is specifically about the Peranakans who live in the Katong area.
Okay.
It is iconic from there, and in fact, almost every laksa shop that wants to brand itself will call themselves a Katong laksa place, right? Like 328 Katong laksa.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I think that's the sign for where the shop is it? I'm not sure. I don't even know why.
It's just a brand name, right? It's like if you go to some food courts, like those like food there's big brand names like Kofu and all this kind of stuff. If they want to brand their laksa, they'll say, "Oh, we are Katong laksa."
Okay.
Right. Okay. The reason for that, the Katong laksa is quite unique. It has a spicy soup stock, the color of a flaming sunset, which you could definitely see for those who are watching the camera. That is a Katong laksa. You can see it. Flavored with coconut milk and dried shrimp, and top of ingredients like cockles, prawns, and fish cakes.
Okay.
And the defining characteristic is the noodle, which is thick vermicelli cut into shorter pieces that can be slurped up with a spoon.
Of course, if you want to see exactly how it is, of course, just Google laksa.
Right.
You probably, if you're not from around here, then you can see how exactly it looks like.
If you are listening on a podcast, just Google it and be able to see the picture, or you could come and watch this episode live. So as we mentioned, the Katong laksa specifically that Singaporeans love it's not just one stall. It is a franchise. It is a brand, and a lot of places are basically replicating this flavor. And that's just part of the Singapore laksa story, I guess.
So why don't we go down into, we know how laksa looks like, slightly about the meaning of laksa and what it contains, and of course, who in Singapore, who exactly are the people who cook laksa or created the the Katong Laksa, right? Maybe why don't we go into the origins of how this entire Laksa came to be?
Sure, take us there, Willie.
All right. So the origin. So let me just read this, right? So there are various theories about the origins of laksa. In Indonesia, the dish is believed to have been born from the Chinese coastal settlements and the mixing of cultures between Chinese merchants and the local cooking practices. And historians believe laksa is a dish that was born from actual intermarriage in early coastal Persian, Chinese settlement in maritime Southeast Asia. It was only Chinese men that ventured abroad out from China to trade. When settling down in a new town, these Chinese traders and sailors set out to find local wives, and these women began incorporating local spices and coconut milk into Chinese noodle soup served to their husbands. So it sounds like a Chinese thing, and then mixed with the local, I suppose, local Indonesians or rakyat, right?
Right.
Yeah, and individual members. Then it's like a fusing of things, and it's quite interesting why it's actually Persian and Sanskrit as I'm reading. It's just really curious because it seems to be local indigenous people of Indonesia and also Chinese people as well, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm not even sure why the name has those origins.
Yeah, let's continue.
How would you say slippery noodle in Chinese?
Hua.
Wow.
Totally nothing.
Yeah, that would not be a very attractive name.
That's right. Okay, this creates the hybrid Chinese local Malay or Javanese culture called Peranakan culture. Oh, we're talking about Peranakan culture.
Right.
As Peranakan Chinese communities have blended their ancestors' culture with local culture, Peranakan communities in different places now demonstrate diversity according to the local flavor. That's why we have 3 different kinds of laksa, I suppose, right? Yeah. In Malaysia, we were talking about Indonesia earlier. So in Malaysia, the dish is believed to have been introduced by Chinese immigrants in Malacca. In Singapore, the dish or its local Katong version is believed to have been created after interaction between the Peranakans and the local Singaporeans, right? Because laksa has different varieties across the regions, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact origin of the dish. Right. Nonetheless, numbers of laksa recipes have been developed along the trade channels of Southeast Asia, where the ports are Penang, Medan, Malacca, Singapore, Palembang, and Batavia, now Jakarta, are the major stops along the historical spice route.
Right.
The intensive trade links among these port cities enables exchanges of ideas to take place, including sharing recipes.
Which is actually very cool. Laksa being a dish that is tied to the maritime trade, right? So I feel like certain dishes are pretty much just like local, like, you know, the chicken rice doesn't really, chicken rice does have variations across the same pots. I guess all of them do. Right. And it's interesting to see how laksa kind of evolves along the trade route depending on where you go.
Right.
So there are, like I said, there are basically 3 different kinds, and
curry-based.
Yeah, curry-based, Assam-based, and then the third is basically some form of fusion.
Right.
So let's do the curry and Assam differentiation.
Do you like the Assam one?
I actually don't, and I think that's a personal thing. I totally get people who love the Assam version. Do you?
No.
Okay.
So I guess we're in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm not really a sour guy in general.
Yeah.
So same. When people like sour stuff, I kind of stay off a bit. But you know,
I tried liking it. I mean, I went to Penang and I just tried the Assam laksa, and I was like, no.
Right.
Maybe because I'm in Singapore for so long, and then I just keep my identity of laksa is the Katong laksa.
Exactly.
And then if I go to Penang and try this Assam laksa, it's not agreeable.
Well, like think about the bak kut teh, right? The 2 different kinds of bak kut teh, while they are different, they are not crazy different. Right. Whereas the laksa, I feel like it is crazy different.
Right.
It's like 2 different, and let's dive into it. Like, what is the difference between the 2 kinds?
Sure.
So for the curry laksa, coconut milk is definitely there.
Okay.
And for Assam laksa, there's no coconut.
No coconut milk. Okay.
The soup is curry light for the curry laksa, makes sense.
Okay.
And for Assam laksa, it's basically a fish-based soup, and they add tamarind to make it a bit sour.
I see.
In terms of ingredients, curry laksa, for example, has bean sprouts. It has bean curd puff, which is what do you call it? Tau pok.
Tau pok. That's right.
There is hard-boiled egg. There's fish cakes. Whereas for Assam laksa, on the other hand, the ingredients are vastly different. So you have pineapple, shredded cucumber, raw onions, There's no there's no top pork, there's no egg,
Right.
And sometimes they may even use actual fish, kembung, which is, I guess, a kind of small fish.
Right. Right.
So you can see how they're quite different, and you have, in Indonesia, for example, certain kinds, or rather around the region, there's certain kinds of curry laksas like laksa lemak, Katong laksa, Nyonya laksa, Johor laksa.
Wow.
And for Assam laksa, you have the main Assam laksa, and then maybe Penang laksa, which is also a bit of a localized version of Assam laksa.
Sounds like different territories. I wonder if they're like territorial wars regarding laksa as well.
I mean, in Singapore there are, right? Actually, that's the next section of this, about turf wars.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you which is my favorite laksa.
Okay.
My favorite laksa is the one in Queensway.
Okay.
The curry is just mind-blowingly good, and you can either have laksa or you can have their curry chicken, which are both amazing. And we were just talking about this, how they are going up for en bloc pretty soon. So my main concern is I don't want to lose that laksa shop.
They're gonna move somewhere, I suppose. Yeah.
Right.
We just need to follow where they are.
Yeah.
But yes, you buy your shoes in Queensway.
Right.
And then later on, you sit down for a laksa.
Right. Oh, you
Kinda
have
like
the
that,
laksa first.
Oh yeah. Either way, whether
Right.
whether you expend your energy and need to refill, or you need more energy, then get onto the shopping.
Right. Exactly. It's almost like a journey in itself. Like people do that. They're like, okay, I'm gonna go shoe shopping today, and I'm gonna plan my laksa, and I'm gonna, it's a whole day, half day kind of trip.
All right.
But the main area is Katong. So, and Katong is actually, as we were talking about, it's also currently one of the main spots in Singapore where you want to go to like find Peranakan culture.
Okay.
So basically, many are confused about the authenticity of some of these stalls, because every stall now, like I said, says, Katong laksa. Which one is actually the original? And the original, the first person who apparently created Katong laksa is supposedly the Queensway laksa person.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
So it's called the Janggut version, and it's named after the hawker who sprouts a few hairs from a mole below his chin, and that apparently means Janggut, or beard, in Malay, and that is now helmed by his family and operates from Queensway Shopping Center. So that was supposedly like one of the main claims to the original laksa.
I see.
And he's not even in Katong,
right? But he doesn't brand his, or at least the shop doesn't brand itself as Katong laksa, isn't it? Or
I'm not too sure actually.
Right.
I in my mind it's Queensway laksa.
Wow. Okay. So the Queensway laksa is the original laksa.
It's a claim. It's the strongest claim according to some of the people out there.
Okay. I see. And I suppose this will of course spark some, whether this is accurate or controversy, we'll never know, I suppose.
Well, it's a very big part of Singaporean culture to like want to claim heritage and want to claim to be the original. I think you have original and then you have the best, right? You could be the same, you could be the original and the best, but you don't have to be the original to be the best.
Sure.
Right.
Fair.
I've had some pretty great laksa in like in a nice hotel during the buffets. I've had really bad laksa during buffets, but I've also had really great laksa during buffets. I'd be like, whoa, like this is comparable, if not better than like the street food laksa. But that's, again, it goes back to the quality of ingredients,
of course,
the techniques, and all this kind of stuff.
Right. And sometimes it also boils down to what kind of palate you have, right?
Right.
What kind of preference you have for these kind of foods as well.
Right. I mean, you can make it spicy. You can make it less. If you don't want the lemak.
I think it's just like the Assam as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it makes me wonder who made the first Assam laksa.
Well, that's Penang explained.
Yeah, that's Penang explained.
Yeah. So along Katong, there are a number of other reputable stalls that also have claim, but the difference is that a normal laksa requires chopsticks to scoop up the uncut noodles, and that's the difference between some of, I guess especially with the Janggut version
Mm-hmm.
and these versions in Katong.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's so interesting because I feel like the laksa dish is a dish that you can't really get outside of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Right? I've been to some places in, like when I lived in the US, when I lived in um, London for a bit, there would be Singaporean stalls, right, serving like Singaporean food, and then I would normally take like some of my American friends, or even like just non-Singaporean friends who
Right.
happen to be studying with me.
Mm.
We'd go in, and there'd be the menu, and you could see, I would have the stuff I'm craving about, but I also know I need to whet the appetites of my friends. I need them to know in first bite, like Singaporean food is a whole league by itself.
Okay.
Right? And you kind of have to pull out the stuff. So you can start with the prata. Prata is always an easy one where people are like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
But then laksa is hands down a dish that always fascinates people.
Okay.
Because they've just never had a heavy soup dish, right? They're used to like soup noodles, like pho. It's a very common ramen.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like heavier than ramen.
Right.
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 So,
milky, all milky. That's right.
So when they have this, they're just like, what is this? And that totally whets their appetite. Right. And that's how powerful of a dish laksa is.
Right. I mean, in my overseas experience, when I was younger, I mean, that was many years ago.
Right.
The only kind of Singaporean food you're getting was something called Singaporean noodles.
Right. Yeah.
Never so specific like laksa.
It goes to show how big Singaporean food has become on the world stage. And in fact, I remember when I went to the US for the first time. This was 4 years ago. You could actually bring laksa, like instant laksa noodles, over. I can't remember what the brands were, but there was one that was just the standard like Singaporean ingredient boxes,
right?
And then there was also instant noodles where you could just instant noodle style. You pour the sauce, pour the powder into the hot water.
Yeah, I think I tried one of those.
Yeah. So now laksa is exported. It's like that's how big it is, and you don't have like instant char kway teow, right? there's no such thing. I think you have instant bak kut teh. That exists, but laksa, that is how big of a dish it is.
Right. Gaining popularity among overseas counterparts as well.
Yeah. I mean, it has a health, definitely has a health branding issue,
right?
Because it is highly caloric. A lot. I mean, coconut milk in excess is going to be bad for you any day.
Of course.
So me eating this right now is already a very sinful thing. Thankfully, I did my HIIT session in the morning. But yeah, this is like a once in a month kind of dish at most.
Right. Well, that's good. Maybe since we're on the topic of turf war,
right?
I think there's an even larger turf war going on when it comes to laksa.
Right.
Yeah, and actually generally any food in Southeast Asia. Maybe you want to tell what that is?
You could tell it.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think recently we had a lot of claims of the origin of food, right?
Right.
I mean, now of course, if we say that Katong, or rather Queensway laksa is the origin, I think that some people even claim that it belongs to certain countries.
Oh.
Would you say?
Well, we just talked about it going along the trade route. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a report in 2009 as part of a national food branding exercise. Malaysian Minister of Tourism Ng Yen Yen attempted to claim ownership for regional dishes such as laksa, Hainanese chicken rice, and bak kut teh, claiming that others have hijacked their dish. This led to discontent with its regional neighbors.
Singapore being one.
Okay, of course, yeah. Ng later clarified that she was misquoted on intention to patent the foods, and that the study on the origin of the food will be conducted and an apology conveyed if it was wrongly claimed. Well, to date, the results of the studies have not been made public.
Oh, so either the study was never done, or they may have realized that they don't actually own it.
Well, like you said, there are three kinds of laksa, right? The Malaysian Penang Assam laksa,
right?
Singaporean Katong laksa,
right?
And the Sarawak, or somewhat like a mixture of both of them, right?
Right.
Like a curry laksa,
right?
Yeah. So I suppose already they're so diversely different. Just lumping them up together as laksa in general may not do it quite justice. It just
it's
happened.
the same with the chicken rice,
Yeah.
right? You have it's an iconic Malacca chicken rice with
Right.
the chicken rice balls. Bakute we just talked about, like
Yeah.
the herbal bakute and the
The
more
peppery version of
Yeah,
bakute.
yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, so like to own it, yeah, absolutely, it's going to be very difficult. And the key thing is to just appreciate that we have so much diversity in that food. I feel like it's a big part of food culture in general. It's like arguing about original, like who was the original, gives you a certain level of pride, but beyond that, like what are you trying to earn, right? It's really about owning the craft and being the best person and making a dish, and that helps everyone, right? As a restaurateur or as a hawker, you get to improve your field, and as customers we just get to enjoy good food. That's the whole goal.
Right. I think food has become synonymous with national pride as well, don't you think so?
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in a region where it is tied so much to why people would come here.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose it's also quite understandable why people would then identify their own cultures and their own identity around the food that they grew up with.
Right.
And so laying claim to that is like trying to prevent some form of piracy, or you say to their cultures.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
I am the original, I'm not like a run of the mill kind of.
You are never run of the mill, but I think in general, once you have a good dish and you get the recipe right, like everything beyond that is just the difference between good and greatness. And good is not too bad sometimes.
Of course.
I did find something, an interesting poem actually, that was written in 1931.
Wow, that's a long time ago, right?
By a poet called Xiao Po Ling. And this poet basically, in one of their, this is one paragraph, one stanza in the poem.
Maybe just it's Xiao Po Ling. Sorry, I'm being Chinese.
How did I pronounce it?
Xiao Po Ling.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
And yeah, and basically in this paragraph, they did. Let's just read it.
Okay, sure. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Do I have the more poetic voice?
No, you can. Okay, I can take another 4 lines if you want to.
Okay, sure. I'll do the first half. By 4 o'clock each morning, when you are all abed, the laksa I'm preparing, that people may be fed. I grind some rice to powder and knead it to a dough, then press it through a sieve to a boiling pot below.
The stringy mass of flour, which hardens as it boils, is made up into lumps of tiny snow white coils. Then serve the tasty gravy and a pinch of fragrant spice. My laksa finds more flavor than the ordinary rice. That's okay. That's pretty cool.
That's a great way to describe laksa.
Right.
There's so much that goes into it. Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing that we don't talk about, right? That there is so much that goes into this dish. We've talked about the history and the ingredients and what makes, and like some of the regionalization of it. But this is a difficult dish to make, right? The crafting of the curry and the soup, that's a lot of work. The noodles themselves, the choice of ingredients, and the cooking, right? I mean, making sure that there's a good balance, that nothing overpowers each other.
But you know what? I also think that there's a lot of mystery with this dish as well. Don't you think so? I mean, we visited that the dish or the word laksa could come from a Persian or Sanskrit, the description of many ingredients and slippery noodles. And then the next moment we see it as the Chinese as well as the local indigenous people mixing together and forming this dish.
Right.
And 3 different kinds of dish that's totally different, or maybe rather 2 distinctly different, and the third one's like combination, right?
Right.
And I think that they're all called laksa.
Right.
I suppose it's really a mystery to really, I don't know how to fathom where did this dish come from, and how they really create itself from Persian, Sanskrit, right? That's like all the way maybe in like India and all the way up to the Middle East, and then now we're saying that in this part of the world, Javanese, mixture of Chinese,
right,
and Indonesian. how does this all come to play? I suppose it will be forever a mystery,
right,
to us.
Yeah,
yeah, but you know what? We are just enjoying the mystery today.
Yeah, I think some mysteries don't have to be solved.
That's true.
And on that note, that's the end of this short and sweet episode. If you do happen to know the story behind Laksa's name and how how to unveil this mystery,
right,
do message us. Maybe surprise us a bit, and share what you do know. Otherwise, rate the podcast so that other people can listen, share, so that anyone who you think would enjoy learning about Laksa.
Yeah. So if you know the history, please leave a comment below, and then of course, so everybody gets the benefit from this information as well.
Right.
If not, I suppose it will remain a mystery for all the years to come.
Absolutely.
All right.
Till our next episode.
Sure. Maybe a next dish as well.
Yeah, why not? We will have some of these around. I do want to do one on chicken rice. I think that controversy will be quite interesting.
Well, I think I know an expert in that area.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, let's bring them around. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we will get an authentic Hainanese to describe Hainanese chicken rice.
Oh, even better. Or we could even ask the person who owns Tian Tian chicken rice.
Yeah, sure. Nothing specific, but
that would be interesting.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you for watching today's episode of As You Explain.
And we'll see you around.
All right. Good night.
Ciao.